A quick note before we get into the episode. Oversharing is a podcast for entertainment purposes only. It is not a medical podcast and does not constitute medical or psychological advice. Always seek the advice of your physician or mental health professional. Hello, welcome back to Oversharing. I'm Jordana Abraham.
And I am Dr. Naomi Bernstein.
How's it go? This kind of brings me to my topic. If you can hear my dog crying in the background.
Yes.
I think the hardest part of having a dog is I just don't know what he's thinking.
Aww.
We had a bunch of people over on Saturday, and a lot of them had little kids, and most, I would say there were probably 15 kids. It was Mike's friends and my friends and their kids.
Oh, wow. 15 kids.
Probably about 15 kids, all 4 and under. So
oh my gosh.
a lot of 4. So because we had little kids, we decided to send Ron to this daycare. He's not aggressive with kids, but he does not know his size. And sometimes he'll jump on them or lick them. And we talked about this in previous.
A little bit of a nibbling. He's a little nibbler.
Not to little kids, but he sometimes does do a little for attention. He'll try to get your attention. Nibble. Yes. So we didn't really want to have to deal with the liability of that and just being so many kids. So we brought him to this daycare. He does not get getting in the car. He won't get in the car because I think he's afraid he's going to the vet or the groomer or anywhere we take him, he gets very anxious. I think he has he's sort of developed this weird a little bit of an agoraphobia of being away from his home, which is nice because he doesn't try to run away. So if the door is ever open, he's just kind of sitting there. If I walk out, he'll walk out with me, and then if I walk back in, he'll walk back in with me. I actually had an interesting thing where I was taking him on a walk. He sat down and he would not go home. He would not keep walking. And he was sitting there, and I was trying to pull the leash, and he was just sitting there, and he wasn't. I was kind of at first I was waiting it out. It was 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then I was I have things to do. I need to get out of here. And he's 80 pounds. So I'm not picking him up. So I was let me try this. I took him off. I dropped the leash. I kept the leash on him in case I needed to run and grab it. I dropped the leash, and I just was bye, Ron. And I walked home. And then he looked at me, and he got up and he followed me, and he walked home too. So,
oh my gosh.
Which was nice. I'm I've done that now a couple times. It's a little dangerous, I think, but I'm kind of this is the only way to get you to move. I can't just sit here all day. And I'm looking back every 5 seconds to make sure he's actually following me. But I don't know. He really doesn't like to be away from our house. And whenever he goes somewhere, he comes back and he's sleeping all day, and he's sad. And I'm did you have a great time there? And you're sad you're not there? Or are you mad at me? It's just very hard with a dog to not know. I wish I could be if he was a kid, I'd be how was your time there? He spent the night at this, it's not even a facility. It's this woman's house who dog sits.
Okay.
She has another dog. So he can play with the dog, and then they don't crate them, which he doesn't like crates, or he doesn't like to be. So he sleeps on you bring his dog bed. He sleeps in another room with the other dog on his dog bed. I'm just I stick so hard because he comes back, and I'm just I have no idea how your day was. And now you're kind of you look just sad. I'm not sure if you're sad that I sent you away, or if you're sad that you're home and you're not there anymore. It's just I don't know. It's a tricky thing. And I think that's the saddest part about having a dog is he can never just be I was really homesick.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. Or you could twist it and you'd be he had so much fun. He misses this other dog that he just got to hang out with for a day and
Maybe
a half.
That's it.
He had such a blast that he's just exhausted and tired out and missing his friend. Or he's traumatized and so
and had
depressed.
And maybe the other dog was the other dog mean to you?
Right.
Was the woman who was taking care of you good? It's so much, I don't know. It's just a very, obviously with my kids, it's the same. They can't speak yet either, but it feels like having an 8-year-old boy that just can't speak to me and won't. And I don't know. I just don't know what to do with him.
That is really hard. Well, it feels in probably, if this has happened before, in a day or two, he'll be back to himself and you'll forget all about it.
He will, I'm sure. But then I'm like, I don't know how to think about these daycare things. Like, should I bring him more often so he gets to like it? Should I bring him less often because he doesn't like it? Or because it's just like, I just don't know. It's hard to like guide your behavior with just like vibes.
Totally. And then this is what I get when we came to New York, when we came to stay with you, and we had the dog sitter and they take pictures and we're like, send more pictures. And then they just send these like pictures of the dog. And you're like, I don't know. They're like sitting on the couch. They look kind of sad, or like they're like pictures of them like moving and they're blurry because they're like jumping up or something. And you're like, I don't know what to make of this.
Are you having, and don't you wish you could go home and be like, Penny, Lucky, like, how was your week?
Was that,
how'd it go?
Or you get the interpretation from the sitter, which is like, I've had so many, we've talked about them on here, the whole gamut.
You've had quite experience. If you were a listener of the show, yeah, you've heard about this.
Go back, listen to the episodes about our dog sitter experiences. But then you get like the overly animated, like, we're having the best time and they're so happy. I'm like, well, I don't know. How do you know they're so happy? Like, so then you get that dog sitter, and then you get the dog sitter that doesn't say much at all.
Or the one who complains about them.
Yes. All in all, I can validate this idea of not knowing. But yeah, I think it probably is good to, do that every so often. We have a question coming up here about baby monitors. It might be, this is in this woman's house, so I don't know how she would feel about like a camera of some sort in their doggy area, so you can maybe pop in every now and then and see what it looks like.
She sends pictures too. It was funny when I picked her up, she was like, oh, he was great. It's like, he's probably got his barking under control. I was like, oh, so he was barking a lot. I guess that's like the only indication.
Right.
That was a little he's a good boy.
Data point that you got there. That is really hard. I mean, look, you've got to do what you got to do, right? You had these kids over. If you didn't send him and you had Ronnie in the house and one of the kids got knocked over and bumped their head or got a scratch, we'd be sitting here talking about that.
Yeah. Or even like there's also like food out. So sometimes he'll like, I don't want him to like, and he has a sensitive stomach. So I'm just kind of like.
So we'd be having a different conversation. If it wasn't about whether or not he was happy over the weekend, it would be about the fact that he shit all over some rug that you have. And I think you just have to chalk it up to, I wouldn't be pushing him, like sending him just to send him. I think if you could keep sending him to the same place, consistency in that would probably be a good idea. Maybe
that's what we need to do, because like, I think probably like you, I'm like, I sent him like once and then I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if he like really liked it. He seems sad now. So I'm going to try a different place, but it's like, maybe he just needs to go to the same place over and over again to feel like he knows what to expect and he's home and he likes
unless
everything.
You get some major red flags, I would like pick a place and keep sending him to that same place. Unless something happens that you think is really bad. I do think videos are probably better than like still photos when it comes to a dog. But I will do the thing where I'm like, are the ears up or the ears down? Is the tail up?
Right.
Is
How's
the tail
tail
down? Like, yeah, but that's just craziness.
And he's just like an anxious dog. I'm like, how did I make such an anxious dog? He's like, why are you so anxious? Things are good.
Yeah. The part of it is the leaving the house. Like, those people, I'm sure we have lots of listeners. And it does help, I think, sometimes when you're single. Like I was like this when I was single and my dog Ralph was like my buddy and I literally took him everywhere.
Right.
Like when you you take your dog everywhere. You get in the car, you take your dog. You go to the store, you take your dog. Like you just go wherever you go, you take your dog.
Right.
And it makes them comfortable around people and it makes them just comfortable in the world. My dogs now are not like that. I don't know if they get anxious, but they get like all jittery and intense when we take them in the car because they're like, what the fuck? Where are we going? Like, they don't know, And
they have each other at least. Yeah.
Yeah. But that doesn't, I don't think they calm each other. really. They don't seem like a calming force for one
That's
another.
annoying.
Yeah. That's annoying.
There's no way to know until you
point.
get right.
Oh,
There's no way to
yes.
know unless you get the other one to know if it calms the other. But if it doesn't, then it's like, oh, now I just have two dogs.
Two dogs that do not calm
Right.
each other. They do not seem like calming influences on one another. I'm not going to suggest this because you have two babies. So you're not going to go to get ice cream and take two babies and two dogs. Like, I don't think that's a realistic thing for you at this point.
Yeah, it would take a lot of maybe when he's older, but yeah, he's just he's got some social anxiety.
I do think if you're trying to avoid this, I think you can try to do the thing where you just like take your dog more places.
Right.
I think people start off, it's the same thing, almost like what I say sometimes with like breastfeeding, which I'm a big advocate of, but like you start off the beginning phase of life with like the mom does most of the feedings and then that just sets the tone.
It's the tone. Yeah.
I think in puppy life, sometimes you're like, well, they don't have their shots, so they can't go places. And then you just kind of get in this habit routine of like, they don't have their shots, so they can't go outside and they can't go places. And then that kind of sometimes takes on a life of its own.
Right.
And then they don't go places. And then you just get in that habit. So, but now you're swamped.
To figure out something to do with him.
He'll be okay. Give it a couple of days. He'll readjust again.
I'm sure he will, but it's like, I don't know. I just feel like it's like every time he goes away, it's like, he's like weird.
It's probably his sleep too. Like he's not,
I'm sure he can't. Right. But then I'm like, oh, like if you drop, like, let's say he's an 8-year-old boy. Let's say you drop Brooks off at like a random person's house and like was like, oh, play with their son and you're going to sleep in the room with him.
Right. Well, that literally just happened. Maddie came back from 2 days at a volleyball camp and she came back and she was kind of like a bit of a crank because she probably was up all night with her friends, didn't get enough sleep. We picked her up. It was Father's Day. And I was like, can you say Happy Father's Day? Like she was exhausted. She was cranky, So I think anytime sleep's disrupted and they're in a new environment, they just have to get back and readjust. I'm sure he's fine.
I won't take him to a therapist.
A dog psychic. Yeah.
I'm sure there are dog therapists or somewhere. Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked. All right, let's get into our emails. If you have a voicemail, you can leave us a voicemail at 646-363-6294. There's a voicemail at the end of this episode. Or you can email us at oversharing@betches.com. If you want to subscribe to this podcast, you get 2 bonus episodes a month. We get a little more personal and you get all the episodes ad-free and a day early. Or you can join one of Dr. Naomi's groups. How do they do that?
Yeah, NaomiBernstein.com. We have lots of challenges that we do all together as a group, strength in numbers. So yeah, NaomiBernstein.com. And if you are looking for couples therapy or individual therapy, I do have some openings there too. So come fill out a form, NaomiBernstein.com. I look forward to hearing from you.
All right, let's do some emails. I'll read our first overshare. Hi, Dr. Naomi and Jordana. I'm a big fan of your show and love your sister dynamic. Every episode offers something relatable that has helped me in my personal life. Love that. Thank you both so much for what you do. I'm writing in to ask for help regarding a dilemma with my 19-year-old daughter. She's an amazing person, but I'm struggling to guide her towards independence, specifically when it comes to getting her driver's license. Currently, she relies on friends, her boyfriend, and me for rides. Since she takes classes online, she feels she has no immediate need to drive. I've explained that I can only drive her during my limited free time, but it hasn't changed her perspective. I want her to be independent and have the freedom to go where she wants without relying on others. I have tried everything from bribes to ultimatums, but she only becomes angry and frustrated. She eventually admitted she is scared of getting into an accident, though I've pointed out that being a PP, aka passenger princess, carries the same risks. It's also important to note that she has struggled with anxiety in the past, particularly during COVID and in high school, and has sought help through therapy. How can I help my daughter embrace this step towards independence without pushing her away by causing her further distress? She means the world to me, and I want her to have every opportunity to grow. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I don't want to drive my daughter away, Betch. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a great question. We talk a lot about babies, right? And the idea of sleep training and self-soothing and tolerating the uncomfortable sound of babies crying and this sort of thing. And this just goes to show that it's kind of never ending. This idea of tolerating our kids' discomfort when it's in their best interest and ours, because she has to drive her around, to allow our kids to be uncomfortable in so many ways. When I hear this, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is like a systematic desensitization. And I get it. Driving is scary. And I'm sure somewhere along the line she saw, maybe, I don't know if she experienced an accident or even just seeing, you can see, I don't know if you've ever watched one of those movies where it's like two people are driving in a car and it's like they're just chatting and all of a sudden it's like in a movie, all of a sudden like, bam, accident. Like even that is kind of can be like a traumatic feeling.
Yeah, for sure. And to me, it's like if she doesn't mind driving in a car, but she minds driving a car, it is probably more about like her fear of doing something wrong or being in control, not feeling confident in her driving abilities. Because like I would have that too. Like again, like no fear flying in an airplane. No fear when Mike's driving. I do get a little anxious sometimes when I'm driving. You know, it's more on you. You're the one who has to like make sure you're not in the accident. So I don't think it's like a fear of car accidents in general. It's probably a fear of her doing something wrong to lead to the car accident.
And that's why I think, and I don't know exactly what this mom has tried, but what I think would be helpful is to see if she can just start, you know, when I say systematic desensitization, starting really small, like, you know, just let's go to an empty parking lot and let's just drive in a straight line and stop, and then turn around and drive in a straight line and stop. And let's just start really, really small until you feel comfortable that you can do that. And then let's go to really like a not busy
residential
neighborhood and just drive around your own neighborhood with no intersections, no stoplights, no, you know, and then gradually move up and up. And even if you have to, she's not doing it at all right now. So if you can just do that, even if it takes 6 months to just drive around the neighborhood, of just driving around the neighborhood and driving to one single place. Okay, we're just going to drive to this grocery store and back. And every time you're going to be the one that goes to drive to the grocery store. And that's going to be your job. And you're just going to drive to this one place. And then you kind of get used to doing that. So that's what I would start doing versus making it like exactly wherever she wants to go is where she's going to drive. If her boyfriend lives in a place where she has to get on a highway, to start with that, I don't know what they're trying, but I would start.
Well, she doesn't have a license. I wonder if she has a permit.
Right. Yeah. Well, we need, that might be the hard part, is just getting her to agree to get the learner's permit, getting her to agree to just start like going to a parking lot and driving, you know, just getting behind the wheel.
Yeah. And I think she needs to be a little more open to doing things that make her uncomfortable. I mean, in my mind, like the hard ass way to go about this is to be like,
I'm not driving you.
I'm going to drive you for the next 2 months. And then I'm not going to drive you anymore. So you have 2 months. I'm happy to practice with you. I'm happy to do whatever you want to help facilitate you driving. But in 2 months, I'm not going to drive you anywhere. So whatever happens after that is up to you. I mean, she's an adult. She's 19. Technically, she's an adult. So it's like now it's up to her. She can ask her boyfriend to drive her more places. She can ask her friends to drive her more places. But eventually,
probably what's going to happen. But yeah,
which I mean, then it's not your problem anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. If I were the therapist working with this family, we would sit and we would say, okay, you got 2 weeks to get the learner's permit, and then I'll continue to drive you. And then you have a week, and then we're going to make a plan to go to the parking lot. You kind of keep like pushing that. And as long as you keep to these benchmarks where then we're going to go to the parking lot for 2 weeks, and then we're going to drive in the neighborhood for 2 weeks. This is what you need to do in order for me to continue to drive you places. We're going to meet these benchmarks. So instead of just like, you got to go get a license, we're going to do these little benchmarks. And that way I'm going to keep meeting you where you're at. I'm going to keep helping you as long as you keep helping yourself. But I do think she probably needs a little tough love here, other than just, come on, why don't you do it?
Right. Yeah. And I do think that if she is the kind of person who's just like not doing it, maybe her mom has done has done a lot for her throughout her life. Possibly. I don't want to generalize, but I would imagine there's like a little bit of a lack of independence there.
I don't know what the relationship is like with the boyfriend, but there might be something there too. If he's just willing to drive her. I mean, by 19, you got to go places. If he's just driving her everywhere she ever has to go, that's got to be draining on him at some point as well.
It's a great way to teach independence. I think obviously everyone would rather other people do everything for them to an extent. Like I think
some people, but yeah.
Yeah. Like in your ideal world, you don't have to lift a finger ever.
Right.
I mean, there's a harshness of it of like, if I don't do this, no one's going to do it. And maybe she'd rather sit home than go get a license.
Yeah. And then if that's what it gets down to, then it's really bordering on like pathological. And maybe at that point you need medication or you need like psychiatric intervention or really getting back into, more intensive psychotherapy around it. If she's really choosing to stay home right now, it's not affecting her that much because she's going where she needs to go.
There's only one way to tell.
Great question. I like to see how, when we talk, because we're going to talk in a little bit, I think in our intention segment about, allowing babies to self-soothe. So I really do like to see that this is not just about the 4-month-old baby, that this thread continues throughout the parenting life cycle. So I like these questions. So thanks. Keep writing in.
Yes. Okay. Let's do a Betcha Sis. Do you want to read this one?
Hi, Dr. Naomi and Jordana. I recently found out that my family were the only family members not invited to my cousin's wedding, and I'm not sure if I should say something or not. For some context, my mom and her siblings have a very interesting dynamic, and some don't speak to each other, and it's kind of ambiguous as to why. My grandparents on that side are all gone, so it is what it is. The cousins, however, have always gotten along. I've kept up with my cousins and I've seen them at family events and it's all been good. We live far away from each other, so we really only see them at weddings now that our grandparents are gone. A few years ago, one of my cousins got married and my sister and I were invited, but my parents weren't, even though my mom assumed she would be. I think this was because of an issue my cousin had with my mom that I don't know the details to. It was explained to me that she wasn't invited because my cousin didn't want to have to worry about an encounter on her special day. I understood, never pushed it, and I've always been pro, you can invite whoever you want to your wedding. For this wedding, my date and I made our own plans and traveled in for the wedding on our own. My sister had just had a baby, and in order for her to go, would need someone to watch the baby since it was a child-free wedding. Her solution to this was to bring my mom, who was not invited to the wedding, to stay in the hotel room with the baby so she could go. The week before the wedding, I got a call from my cousin worried that my mom was going to crash. I assured her that she was just there to watch the baby, but I had nothing to do with this plan. Incidentally, I guess my mom had used her name to book the room on the wedding block at the hotel. My sister and I went and there was no drama at the wedding, and I think all was fine. I didn't agree with the way my sister and mom handled things. I felt caught in the middle, but I didn't know what to do. Fast forward to now, and I have another cousin getting married. This cousin is the previous cousin's brother. When save the dates were sent out, my mom messaged me asking if I got one. I hadn't. Apparently, my aunt who lives closer to the couple had received hers and was asking my mom about it. I knew this couple was going to have a small-ish wedding, so I thought maybe they're just inviting local family. A week ago, my uncle, who lives nowhere close to this cousin, messaged me asking if he was going to see me there at the end of the month. This is when I Googled their wedding website and through their RSVP link discovered that my family was the only one not invited. I was hurt because even though my mom had some issues with my cousin, I didn't think I would get roped into that, especially because I'm pretty sure my mom was in the wrong. So my question is, should I ask one of my cousins if I was just a casualty in not being invited because of the loophole my mom found for my other cousin's wedding, or just let it go? Maybe there was another reason that I don't know about. I'm still on the team of invite whoever you want. So I understand there are probably reasons they didn't invite us. I would more just like to know if it was something I did. I don't want to make it awkward for my cousins and put them in a tough spot if I don't have to. Thanks for any help or advice. Left out of the family.
So nice to see other dysfunctional families in these emails.
The thing that strikes me, this isn't her question, but it just strikes me that like some families just don't talk about what is happening. Like the fact that she has no idea why the cousin and her mom don't get along. And she's just like, okay.
I've learned this, through Mike, is some families just like don't really talk about everything and analyze it and discuss, the different psychological reasons behind why everyone is doing whatever they're doing. Yeah, that struck me. Yeah. I think that's an interesting part of this. It doesn't seem like they're a highly communicative family.
Right.
But in some ways, it's kind of nice that everyone's not bringing each other into all the drama. Seems like all the drama is like siloed.
You two have an issue that's between the two of you, which is actually in some ways beautiful because it doesn't pull this like you have to take my side and you don't go to the wedding because I'm not invited to the wedding. Like love all of that.
Which is nice because I can't imagine like our mom not being invited to a wedding of her sibling and we were invited and her being like,
okay, I'll babysit.
I'll watch the baby. Yeah, I can't imagine that at all. I mean, something that also struck me here in the email was that she said that like they really only see each other at like these like weddings, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cousins get along. I've kept up with my cousins and I've seen them at family events and it's been good. So it seems like she says, we live far away from each other. So we really only see them at weddings now that our grandparents are gone. So like, it is an interesting thing with family because you probably wouldn't have this with friends, right? Like you wouldn't just invite a friend that you don't really speak to or see to your wedding. But they're like your cousins. So you're like, oh, I'm going to invite like my family to the wedding. I'm going to invite my cousins. But it's like, that's not really that strong of a relationship if you're only seeing each other at these weddings. I'm assuming they don't talk regularly because she doesn't really mention that they have like a close relationship or like she feels really like, she says they get along. As in like they have no, to me, that means like we have no beef with each other. So it's interesting to me. I could see like it feels weird to be like, it's my cousin's wedding and my cousin didn't invite me on principle of like, it's my cousin's wedding. But it also doesn't really sound like they have a relationship.
I think the advice would be if you value your relationship with this cousin and you feel a closeness to her or him, in this case, I think on the next one, and you feel a closeness to him, you would call him and say, hey, what's going on? Like, are we okay? Like, I noticed that, so-and-so, all these people got invited and I wasn't invited. Like, are you upset with me? Did I do something?
And my sister wasn't invited. And obviously my mom wasn't invited, but
my hunch is that they thought it was passive aggressive, that your mom basically came as close to the wedding as she could without coming to the wedding, booked the room under her name, into the room block, almost like felt like a veiled threat that she was going to come to the wedding without coming. So nothing happened, but like, I think that they maybe didn't want to deal with that again. So this time just decided not to invite any of you guys. And you feel kind of like a casualty to the way that your mom handled not being invited to the wedding, which was like to squeeze her way into the hotel room block. Which I could see if it was like, I don't know, but if the wedding was like at the hotel or something, that's really awkward. Where you're like at the breakfast buffet the next morning or something.
Right. And then they probably are like, oh, if we invite her, the mom's going to be there again. Right. Taking care of the baby. Like, or why wouldn't she be? And I don't know. It's tough exactly to give like full advice, not knowing what your full relationship is with these cousins. If you only see them at their weddings, what the fight was about, what your mom did, why they might be worried she's going to stir up drama. It sounds like her hunch is that her mom was wrong. So I'm assuming her mom is like perhaps somewhat immature. And so I don't know. I think it's tough, but I think I agree with you. It's like, I would evaluate my individual relationship with this cousin. Is this the only time? Have you not spoken to him other than at your last cousin's wedding?
Right.
Because like, I would just think about like, is it worth it? Like, are you trying to build a closer relationship with this person? Or is it like, I feel weird not being invited to my first cousin's wedding?
Right. I do think there is kind of this societal taboo thing around, like you're saying, with a friend, if you haven't spoken to them in 2 years since the last family event, or
a friendship, the last mutual friend's wedding. Yeah.
Right. You probably wouldn't think twice about not inviting them. But with family, it's almost like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's almost like a bad look or something. Like if you have first cousins and they're not at your wedding, like it's almost kind of like, oh, why didn't you invite your cousins or so? Yeah, it's like this big statement, like that your family isn't at your wedding. Even if you have almost no relationship with them, it feels like a bigger deal for them not to be invited. Just culturally, I think here, everywhere, probably like family is invited to weddings. It's just like what you do. But in this case, and I could see why she's upset, because she's like, I didn't do anything. So why didn't I get invited? So I see why she's upset. Her question is, do I say something? You kind of know I don't want to say we know everything, but like we kind of know the answer. So like, do you need to hear it? Maybe you want to advocate for yourself, or maybe you feel like you need to say your truth about your mom. Here's another sticky point, right? Within the family, you might need to say, yeah, I don't love the way my mom handled that. So now you're like breaking away from your loyalty with your mom to be able to say, hey, I don't like the way she handled that. So I don't want to be lumped in with that. And I feel like you're lumping me in with that. And that kind of hurts. Like I would be able to just come to this wedding. I'm not asking her to babysit. I don't have kids yet. Like I would just come celebrate you. And I'm not really a part of that. And I actually disagree with the way that was handled. So maybe you feel like you need to say your piece about that, because you're just being lumped into this whole thing and that doesn't feel good. So if you feel like you need to say that, then maybe you call him up and you say that. If it's not worth it to you and you don't really care, then maybe you don't say anything.
Yeah. And I think if you want to go to the wedding because it feels weird to not go to your cousin's wedding, I don't know if that's a good enough reason to like try to get invited to the wedding. Personally, I do feel like it's kind of like, just because you happen to be of the same bloodline does not mean that like we need to put on the show for the rest of it. If she likes her cousin a lot, she feels close to him or his sister, she feels like she wants to be closer. I think that's another part of it. Even if they're not close, if she's like, I would like to like maintain, have a closer relationship, I think that's a reason to do it. If she's just kind of like, I want to go to this wedding.
Yeah, my hunch is that she disagrees with the way the other wedding was handled. And now she's being lumped into it. And that's what's bugging her. That's my hunch. I could be wrong.
Well, in that case, send a text.
Yeah.
Say you didn't agree with it. But also say, again, unless you want to be close, say you understand that didn't invite anyone from this side of the family this time. That's okay. Just want you to know that like, I didn't agree with how she did that last time.
Tough situation. But I'm glad you're writing in. There's so many of these sticky family things, and it brings up like loyalty things. And do you want to kind of throw your mom and your sister under the bus, but is it worth it? Because you're not even that close. I get it.
Well, this doesn't sound like a family that's really intent on loyalty, because they invited the daughters and not the moms. And the mom seemed fine enough that she wasn't invited, that she came and babysat, which I can't imagine happening in our family.
Yes, for sure. That is definitely unique, I think.